When viewed from space, we can see some of the formidable footprint we humans make on this planet. Many of the aspects of human life have recently changed, have passed a threshold that demands we approach life in radically new and different ways. We can no longer forge ahead assuming that an endless world of resources awaits our manifest destiny. We can no longer get away with the philosophy of the ends justify the means. As human beings, we have, in a relatively short time, become too successful for our own good. Successful at creating remarkable but unsustainable societies, cultures, and industry using only a limited portion of the human toolkit. We've mastered the proverbial hammer, and right about now we could use a few other tools to help us succeed in a new and more sustainable way. It was allegedly Albert Einstein who said, "The significant problems we face today cannot be solved at the same level of thinking we were at when we created them." The Presence Project is a deliberate exploration of a few key questions. If we have used a limited portion of human resources, intelligence, and methods to get us to this brink, what are the other tools and resources we might use to solve our dilemma? How do we reach Einstein's other level of thought? Reaching a new level will require new ways of thinking and being. It will require courage and focus. It will require curiosity and care. It will require presence. Hello there, and welcome to another episode of Presence. And this happens to be the third in a three-part series. I hope you've had the opportunity to watch the first two. They've been various arrangements of two guests, Robert Wagner and Renee Jeffes. And this particular, the third in the series of three, is myself and Robert Wagner alone. So welcome back.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
From the first session that we got a chance to hear from all three of us, and mostly the two of you. Mm-hmm. And now what I'm hoping to do is something, the bar is set very high. We spent a half hour speaking with Renee, and it was a remarkable conversation from my point of view. And I really have no doubts. I just mean to give you some prodding that, you know, both of you do such remarkable work. And I just could not be more pleased with having invited you both here to speak about the kind of work that you do, because it just is that kind of perfect jigsaw puzzle fit into the very nature of this show, which is about presence. And just to remind folks, as they just saw in the intro, the 2-minute intro before every one of these shows, talking about my assertion that we have plenty of answers to the many questions in our world, the huge challenges that we face. I assert there's not a one of them that we don't have plenty of answer for. What we're missing is some amount of presence in ourselves, presence and awareness in ourselves, and presence in our relationships with other people. And so that's why I'm so pleased to have had the two of you in this 3-session series to talk about your own take, since you work quite intimately with people, individuals and couples in particular. And your work, while resonant with Renee's, is different in a number of ways as well. So I'm really looking forward to just throwing the door wide open for you, as we did with Renee, to just say, what would you like to disclose? What would you like to have us know about the kind of work that you do? And I know that there are at least a couple of types of work that you do. If I could just briefly synopsize, remember you talking quite a bit about vision quest type work that you do with people. And so that would be one conversation I'd love to find out more about. And then also the tantric instruction that you do. And then if there are other things we've left out in the earlier introductions of you, please fill us in. So with that door thrown open, welcome.
Thank you. I would say overall my work focuses on the individual and that self-love, self-awakening, self-empowerment of the individual. And then once that aspect of who we are blossoms, then we step into relationship. Then we're really ready to step into relationship with an intimate partner and just all our relationships, family, friends, community. And the third level of my work is about community. I have been facilitating men's groups and just allowing men to gather and share and support and honor each other and who we are and the gifts that we're bringing forth for our community. And so those three aspects all obviously are interconnected. And we always begin with self. And I use the Vision Quest as that main tool of awakening. Taking a group of people, sometimes just men, sometimes just women, and at other times a mix of men and women out into the wilderness. Typically we go to Death Valley or to Southern Oregon, the Cascade Mountains. And it's a 7 or 9 day Vision Quest, which includes a 3 to 4 day and night solo fast in the wilderness. And there's something quite powerful, and it's from my own journey of Vision Quest and that ceremony that I found it's such a potent way of really stepping away from our day-to-day life and embracing this depth of who we are. I mean, to be alone and not have all these day-to-day distractions is an incredible chance to allow ourselves to fully blossom. I mean, it's interesting, say in 3 or 4 days alone, you're not cooking food, you're not preparing food, you're not eating food. So that's a chunk of activity that we do every day. We're not doing that now. And so we're just sitting. And we're not reading, we're not distracted by our gadgets and all that. We're just being still with ourselves and with nature. And it's incredible what's revealed, what starts to pour out of us, because we're not having a lot of input. So what's inside starts to come out. So we release physically, emotionally, mentally, all these things that we've been carrying that really don't serve us anymore. So by purging all that, we get down to who we truly are and what are the gifts inside me that need to come forward. And so for me, the Vision Quest ceremony is a powerful tool for that. And it has transformed my life, and to hold back, it's like, no, I have to offer this to others. And so many cultures offer some type of quest. And we do a mixture of various cultures into the work that we offer at Wild Sacredness. And it's just a beautiful way of allowing an individual to open, to awaken, to empower them to step forward in their life. And it's like, here I am. This is what I'm going to offer to the world. And to really embrace that. To me, it's magic every time it happens.
You sent us a few photographs that we might use during our conversation, and I remember in a couple of them, so if we could work on getting them up on the screen soon, there's at least one of them that's obviously a desert-like setting, and an individual, it's up now on the screen.
Yes.
And so I believe that this is what you're talking about, having such a reduction, a severe reduction in the stimulation that we're used to day to day.
Definitely.
And putting us right on the earth. You just can't get more direct a connection and an undistracted connection than what we're looking at in that photograph. Is there anything else you'd like to say about that?
This particular photo, it's a ceremony, the Vision Quest itself, and this individual is ready to step out into the experience of 4 days and 4 nights alone. So it's, in a sense, it's a prayerful, introspective time, and he'll be stepping out alone. And this gives you an idea of just how that experience is. As you said, it's a very intimate connection with the elements. And everything else is distracted away. And you peel it all back, and there you are. It's very raw, we like to say bare bones, if you will. And there's another photo I like to show of a group of us. And I believe that's the next photo. Yes. There's a group of college-age students that I took out into Death Valley. And as you can see, there's a lot of camaraderie of just sharing this time together. So there's time for the group, and then there's time to be alone in the wilderness for 4 days and 4 nights. But you come back together and celebrate the experience. So it's a beautiful sharing. It's a dance with community as well as dance with spirit by yourself.
Yeah. So again, I just am beside myself with the connection in the work that both you and Renee do in different ways, bridging what can seem very, very opaque or mysterious from the average person in their average workaday world. It's like, what does being on the desert mean about that? And why do I have to give up my iPhone? And what's the deal with all this weirdo stuff? And what both of you have said in different ways is it starts within, starts at your core. By taking away those distractions, the things that we tend to fill up our attention with virtually every minute of our waking life.
Yes.
So we take away those distractions and we're left with ourselves. And so when facilitated, when done in a conscious and sober way, we get a chance to allow our authentic self to surface, that authentic self that gets almost no opportunity when we're crammed with devices and the doingness every day. Safe to say?
Oh, yes. So I may have mentioned in the first show that I really believe there's a wildness within each of us and really wants to come out. And we tend to hide that part of ourselves. We shy away. Maybe I won't be accepted the way I would shine, or maybe I'm not good enough and all that. And the Vision Quest is a tool to help you peel that away and realize who you are and that wildness that you have inside, and give yourself that permission to shine your light, to be as big and bright as you can be. It's an edge. It's not easy to expose and say, here I am, world, because there's a lot of us that are a lot of parts of ourselves and myself that have held back. And just someday maybe I will, but not today. And by stepping into the quest, it gives you that sense of empowerment. It's like, you can't wait. It's time now. We have to make a difference. And the world is really waiting for us to be who we are. And I found in my life when I can do that and just show up and be really present, that I'm giving people around me that permission, if you will, or that invitation to shine their light. And I always enjoy being in conversation with someone who's, if you will, lit, because their presence is palpable and it's engaging, and I want to drink that in. I want to have that conversation with you. And I think all of us have had those times, and we're really passionate about something, and we start to express it, and it's like we feel empowered from our own aliveness with who we are. And the quest is an opportunity to open up to that and really be all that we are. And then when we start to do our lives, there's more us in it, there's more meaning in it, there's more value for ourselves and for everyone we touch.
Got it. Yeah. So another word that keeps coming to me as you're describing it, the work is that this is a crucible. It's a container. Your work and the process that people go through and these experiences could be seen as a container. And within that container, that safe container, a person gets to formulate themselves or allow themselves to come forth.
Yes. In a way, I'm a midwife. I create a safe, sacred container for an individual or couples through Tantra to do what they need to do. So once we're giving that, once we feel safe, we start to open. And once we start to open, we start to see who we are. And then we start to embrace who we are. And the next thing is to start sharing. And so in a sense, the work, I just create the container, and I let the individual or the couple do the work they need to, with spirit, with themselves, with each other. And to me, giving that opportunity is where I get fed. I get nourished from allowing people to show up as they are And as they can become more and more. And that's the beauty of it for me.
Sure. So you've just kind of bridged for us between what seems like the ultimate in individual work, which would be that Vision Quest experience, solo and so on, while it involves eventually the community of people coming together, having done their solos and so on. I get that it can bridge to community, but it starts being tremendously alone. And you just pointed toward another type of work that you do, which is the tantric instruction. And I've often heard and certainly felt it myself that there is almost no more valuable crucible as well as the individual as our intimate relationship as crucible. So can you talk about that type of work? It's separate from, I don't know if it's right to say that it's separate from your Vision Quest work, but it seems like it's a different branch.
It is a different branch. First, when we start to embrace ourselves and awaken to who we are and then shine our gifts, then I feel that then we're ready to share and dance in relationship. And that's wonderful to be at that level of, I don't need to have a partner, but I want to share who I am with someone else and allow them to share with me. And that just opens up this beautiful window to be met with someone who can appreciate who we are and we can appreciate fully who they are. It's not out of need. Oh, I need someone to feel complete. It's more like I want to share who I am with someone and we can grow our lives together. And when you meet from both being empowered and alive, the relationship is just a total blessing. There's another level of magic that happens there. And so my tantric work is more about instructing individuals and couples how to do more self-healing work, but also show up for each other. I love teaching couples how to do tantric healing sessions for each other, to step into not only be a better and more sublime lover, but to show up and be a healer for each other. And in that process, by giving to our partner and allowing them to move through any past trauma or abuse issues or just shame, to embrace more who they are. When we move those energetic blocks that are holding us back from a deeper level of intimacy, it gives our partner a chance to really start to show up. And what a more impressive gift or more intimate gift to our partner than to show up as not only lover but healer and give them the opportunity to have more pleasure from our dance together.
Got it. You know, you're reminding me of a point in the first of this three-part series when you and Renee were both here, and I remember we talked a bit about a state of being or a kind of an emotional or psychological connection, an attribute that way, that was a bit of a surprise. I'm asserting it might have ended up being a surprise for people to hear that it was as important, that a state of being or the presence is actually, it sounds like more of a foundation and more critical to this thing called Tantra, or what some folks, so I'm making a lot of assumptions here, I should reel it back. I think the average person in America, and certainly, you know, I'll call myself an average guy, and perhaps our average viewer might not have much of an understanding of Tantra, and might know that there's a little bit that's something to do with sex and what's the deal, and again, if I can just be kind of rough with the generalization and say sex is a pretty uptight topic in America. To this day, we sure have our porn industry, and we sure have our sexy movies and our movie stars that we get all hot and bothered about. But when it comes down to people really expressing themselves and really having a full experience of themselves as sensual beings, and at the level that you were just describing of healing one another and so on, I think the average person is pretty clueless. And so, again, my apologies to the audience if I'm underestimating you. I do apologize. I'm mostly speaking from my own average guy self. And so to try and return to that point that we were at in the earlier conversation, I just found it so freeing to know that there's so much more that precedes the actual sexual act or all the techniques and so on, that's really, in my understanding of this, of a small portion of the entire picture, and that the vast majority of the picture is somehow in the realm of presence. And it's in that realm of presence that we can become healers of ourselves and each other, and far more adept as lovers or people in relationships of any kind. Long question, but is that safe to say?
Of course, yes.
Okay.
Yeah. There's, just step back a little bit with the Tantra. Everyone has sort of this preconceived idea that it's about sort of this Eastern kind of wild sex. And, you know, sex is a part of Tantra, but it's so much more. It's almost, you could say it's a way of life, but for me in my life, it's a way of being present. And that could be present with my intimate partner, present with someone that I'm in conversation with, or just present with the moment in my life. It could be a walk, or it could be reading a book. It's just being where I am and in savoring that. Not always thinking about what's next, or always caught up in what's coming after this or after that. Just being, dropping in, breathing, being in my body, being in this moment, like we are right now. And just savoring that and enjoying that. So for me, that's always been a key part of learning Tantra. When I first stepped into it 8-10 years ago, it was amazing that there was so much about my life and about intimacy and about relationship and sexuality that I didn't really understand. I mean, we all go to high school and we have this sex ed, and that's like gives us a little flavor, and maybe as we're an adult we read a book or two or something like that. But there is so much more about presence, about intimacy, about sharing who I am with my partner, or just stepping into these ancient techniques of Tantra that we usually do to some degree when we step into a new relationship. You know, this looking into each other's eyes, being intimate with our touch, letting the time just linger as we enjoy each other. But life and just work and children and that fill in, and before we know it, we don't connect with our partner very much. We don't have that depth of intimacy anymore. We sort of lose it. And so what Tantra, for me, brings that back in. And what was automatic in a relationship at the beginning, it was just sort of like the chemistry's there, the magic's there. When that starts to wane, as they say, after the honeymoon starts to fade, Tantra brings it back in a conscious way. So I consciously bring this intimacy back into our relationship through various techniques, which deepens us and brings us back to where we were at the beginning. And I found time and time again that couples who, after 3 or 4 years of marriage, or could be 20 years of marriage, by practicing these beautiful techniques again, they drop into almost a deeper level of intimacy than when they first met. And it's because now they have this history and they're embracing this time to really explore together consciously. And that's where the healing aspects of Tantra comes in, and you can really cultivate removing any blockage to the pleasure for each other, for ourselves, and for the relationship. So it's Tantra is very beautiful. It's more than just sex, but it includes that. And overall, it's becoming, for myself, it's becoming more who I am, giving myself permission and the tools to do that, and show up in a way that I haven't ever showed up before, and experiencing a depth of intimacy with myself, with my partner, and with my body. Really loving who I am as a man, and embracing that and allowing the pleasure to move through this body in a way that's I've never experienced before. It's a beautiful gift to give to myself and to my partner.
Got it. Yeah. we're in the last couple of minutes of this, the final, the third in a 3-part series of shows, particularly about bringing ourselves forth from the center out, and from the work that Renee does, the work that you do, a number of different methodologies or directions to get to the center of an individual, or to a couple, or to a family, and so on. And so what we've been able to see and hear about from you both is the different ways that you both have studied and brought to this community in Southern Oregon. And as Renee was saying, I bet you it's the same for you, that with today's technologies, it's possible to connect with people around the world in coaching situations and so on. Is there anything that you'd like to finish up with that speaks to the possibility for our community out of this kind of work? We get back, we're in the last minute or so.
Okay. I would say that ultimately in the work that I offer, it's empowering the individual and bringing that into relationship. But the next step is taking it to our community. I mean, what more can I give to my family, to my friends, to my community? How can I, with my gifts, whatever your gifts are, offer that to my community and the community in the sense of the world itself? And I believe that each of us show up in this life with certain blessings, with certain gifts, certain presence that's only we can bring to the world. And I want to be giving that fully. And part of my gift is to inspire others to give theirs. There's this poem, a verse out of Rainer Marie Wilke, of one of his beautiful poems, and it's about to lie on one's deathbed and realize that your gifts are still inside you. What sadness that must bring. And for me, when that time comes, when I'm on my deathbed, I want to be able to say to the world that I have given everything I came here to give. It's time for me to leave. And I think each of us has a calling. And the invitation is just to show up, to do what you need to do to become all that you are, and to give that to yourself, to your intimate relationships, to your family, to your community. What better way to live?
Robert Wagner, thank you very much for coming on to Presence, the show. It's been a pleasure to have you, and before having Renee as well. And I hope that you'll come back and do lots of shows with us here at RVTV at the Digital Media Center at SOU. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you for joining us here on Presence, and hope to see you again soon.